The power of a single decision is one of the most underestimated forces in life. Every great transformation, every significant breakthrough begins with a single act of intentionality. Decisions shape destinies. The reality is that no one drifts into success, no one accidentally becomes fulfilled, and no one stumbles into purpose without making a conscious choice. At some point in life, a defining moment will come where you are faced with the question, will I stay where I am, or will I take a bold step into the unknown? That one decision has the power to rewrite your future. A single decision is never just about today. It is a seed, and like any seed, it carries within it the potential to create a forest. When you decide to move forward in obedience, in faith, or in courage, you set in motion a series of events that impact your life for years to come. Sometimes that decision feels small, like picking up a book instead of scrolling on your phone, or walking away from a toxic relationship even though you are afraid to be alone. It could be deciding to invest in yourself through education, starting a business, forgiving someone who hurt you, or choosing to believe in your own worth when everything around you tells you otherwise. These moments may seem ordinary, but they are extraordinary in their impact because one decision opens the door to the next. The truth is, life doesn't change because of what we know. It changes because of what we decide to do with what we know. There are countless people who have dreams but never see them come to life because they never move beyond desire into decision. A decision is a line you draw in the sand that says, I will no longer accept what was. I choose what can be. That's why a single decision can surprise heaven. It signals that you are ready for alignment, that you are prepared to step into the flow of what was waiting for you all along. You must also understand that every decision carries consequences. The weight of your decisions determines the weight of your future. One wrong decision can delay you for years, but one right decision can accelerate you in ways you cannot imagine. This is why indecision is often the greatest enemy of progress. When you hesitate, when you linger in fear, when you postpone action, you give room for opportunities to pass by. The timing of a decision is as critical as the decision itself. When the moment comes, when the inner voice speaks, when circumstances align, you cannot afford to be passive. Think about history's greatest shifts. They all started with one decision. A leader deciding to stand for justice, a woman deciding to believe she is worthy of more, an inventor deciding to keep trying even after 100 failures. Your life will not change because of what you hope for. It will change because of what you decide and act upon. That decision could be leaving the familiar, risking your comfort, or challenging a belief system you grew up with. Whatever it is, it demands courage, and courage is the price of transformation. Sometimes the most powerful decision you will ever make is internal. It may not even look dramatic to others. Deciding to forgive someone who betrayed you, deciding to heal instead of holding on to bitterness, deciding to see yourself as valuable instead of worthless. These are decisions that alter the trajectory of your life. They may not make headlines, but they make history in your soul, and heaven takes note of them. One decision can break generational patterns. One decision can shift an entire family's story. One decision can open doors that have been locked for years. But here's the key. The decision must be followed by action. A decision without action is only an intention. The real power is released when you step out, even when the outcome is uncertain. That's when heaven responds, when the impossible begins to bow to your faith. So never underestimate the power of one decision. It may look small in your hands, but it is massive in its impact. It is the turning point that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. It is the moment where everything changes, not because you knew more, but because you chose differently. And when you choose differently, you live differently. That is the power of one single decision. Heaven responds to faithful action because faith is never passive. It is always demonstrated through what you do. Many people believe that believing is enough, But belief without action is incomplete. Real faith produces movement. It pushes you to do something even when the outcome is uncertain. It requires stepping out of your comfort zone, taking a risk, and acting on what you know to be true. Heaven does not respond to mere wishes or desires. It responds to obedience and action rooted in trust. When you act in faith, you align yourself with divine principles. You make a statement that says, "I trust what God has spoken more than what I see." This kind of action shifts things in the unseen realm. It is like placing a demand on the resources of heaven. The moment you move, heaven moves. Many people pray for doors to open, but never take the steps toward the door. They ask for provision, but never position themselves to receive it. They desire change, but keep doing the same things. Faith without works is not faith. It is an illusion. True faith always manifests in decisions, steps, and consistent effort. Think about every miracle that has ever happened in history. Each one was activated by an act of faith. The woman with the issue of blood had to press through the crowd and touch the hem of Jesus' garment. Peter had to step out of the boat to walk on water. These were not safe moves, they were not easy, but that is the essence of faith. It requires action before evidence, and heaven responds to that because it proves trust. Faithful action is not about convenience, it is about conviction. You act because you are convinced of something greater than what your eyes can see. You take that step even when everything in the natural says it is not possible. This is why heaven honors faith-filled actions, because they reveal where your confidence truly lies. It is easy to say you believe when nothing is required of you, but when circumstances demand movement, that is when faith is tested and proven. One of the reasons heaven responds to action is that action activates spiritual laws. These laws are designed to work in your favor, but they require participation. For example, the principle of sowing and reaping. You cannot reap without sowing. No amount of prayer will produce a harvest if no seed is planted. The same is true in life. You cannot expect promotion if you do not show excellence in your current position. You cannot expect relationships to thrive if you do not invest time and love into them. Faithful action puts the principle into motion. There is also a dimension of timing in this. Sometimes the window for action is small, and delay can cost you greatly. When you sense a divine prompting, when clarity comes, that is the time to act. Hesitation often results in missed opportunities. But when you move quickly in obedience, you give heaven something to work with. Your action becomes the platform for divine intervention. Heaven does not manufacture miracles out of nothing. It multiplies what you present. If you give nothing, there is nothing to multiply. If you give effort, time, skill, or obedience, heaven breathes on it and magnifies it. Faithful action also requires persistence. Some people act once and stop when they do not see immediate results. But faith is not a one-time event. It is a lifestyle. It is consistent action based on unwavering belief. Even when the results are delayed, you keep moving because you know that heaven is already at work. The delay is not denial, it is preparation for something greater. The truth is, heaven has already set things in motion for those who act in faith. When you move, doors open. When you step out, provision appears. When you take the risk, opportunities manifest. This is not coincidence, it is divine alignment. Faithful action attracts favor because it demonstrates trust, and trust is the currency of heaven. So do not wait for everything to make sense before you act. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Move with what you have, start where you are, do what you can. The moment you take that first step, the supernatural begins to intersect with the natural. And that is when you experience breakthroughs that cannot be explained. Heaven is not waiting on your words. It is waiting on your action. Because when faith moves, heaven responds. Breaking predictable patterns is one of the most powerful things you can do to transform your life and open doors for your future. Predictable patterns are habits, cycles, and behaviors that keep you locked in the same place year after year. They create a sense of safety because they are familiar, but familiarity is often the enemy of progress. Nothing new can emerge where everything stays the same. If you keep doing what you have always done, you will keep getting what you have always gotten. To experience change, you must be willing to disrupt the pattern. The truth is, most people live on autopilot. They wake up, follow the same routine, make the same choices, and expect something different to happen. But life does not reward routine, it rewards intentional disruption. Patterns can be cultural, generational, or personal. They can come from how you were raised, what you were taught, or the environment you grew up in. Maybe your family has a history of broken relationships, financial struggles, or settling for less than they deserve. These are not just coincidences, they are patterns, and if you do not recognize them, you will repeat them. Breaking a pattern starts with awareness. You must first see that it exists. Many people defend the very cycles that limit them because they feel normal. Comfort can disguise captivity. Just because something feels natural does not mean it is healthy. You cannot break what you refuse to acknowledge. Once you recognize the pattern, the next step is making an intentional decision to choose differently. That choice will not be easy because patterns have momentum. They pull you back to what is familiar. It will feel uncomfortable, even risky, but that is the price of freedom. Every time you choose differently, you disrupt a cycle that was waiting to repeat itself. When you choose to forgive instead of staying bitter, you break a pattern. When you choose to save money instead of spending recklessly like those before you, you break a pattern. When you decide to pursue education, start a business, or prioritize personal growth instead of settling for mediocrity, you break a pattern. These choices do not just affect you, they impact everyone connected to you. Your children, your community, and even generations to come will benefit from the pattern you refuse to continue. Breaking predictable patterns often requires courage because it will set you apart. People will question your choices. They may criticize you because you are no longer following the script they are comfortable with. But if you keep living to please others, you will never experience the life you were created for. Sometimes you have to disappoint others to be true to yourself. You have to be willing to be misunderstood to break free. The cost of staying in the pattern is far greater than the cost of breaking it. Patterns are not just external behaviors. They are rooted in mindset. If you think like you have always thought, you will live like you have always lived. To change your life, you must renew your mind. You must challenge the beliefs that keep you bound. Ask yourself, why do I keep doing this? Why do I respond this way? Why do I choose the same kind of relationships? Once you identify the belief system behind the pattern, you can replace it with truth. Transformation begins in the mind, but it is confirmed through action. One decision to act differently can break decades of dysfunction. It can stop a generational curse in its tracks. It can open doors that were shut for those before you. That is why breaking patterns is so significant. It is not just personal, it is generational. The cycle stops with you, the dysfunction ends with you, the limitation breaks with you, and in its place a new legacy begins. Do not underestimate the power of disrupting what is predictable. It is in that disruption that greatness is born. Nothing extraordinary happens in the comfort zone. If you want a different future, you cannot keep living by the same script. Tear up the old script and write a new one with your choices. Be bold enough to walk a new path, even if no one in your family has walked it before. Because when you break a predictable pattern, you are not just changing your life, you are changing history. Your boldness influences generations because every courageous act creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond your lifetime. When you choose to act boldly, you are not just making a decision for yourself, you are shaping the future of those who will come after you. Boldness is contagious. It sets a standard. It creates a model for others to follow. And the truth is, someone is always watching you. Someone is observing how you handle fear, uncertainty, and adversity. Your decision to be bold becomes their permission to do the same. Generations are built on patterns, but they are also shaped by breakthroughs. Every time a person breaks through a barrier, they create new possibilities for those connected to them. When you decide to start a business in a family where no one has ever been an entrepreneur, you are not just creating an income stream, you are changing the narrative for the next generation. When you decide to walk away from abuse and demand respect, you are teaching your children what love should look like. When you pursue education, excellence, or purpose in spite of obstacles, you are rewriting the story for your bloodline. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act in spite of it. Fear will always be present when you are about to do something significant. But every time you choose boldness over fear, you weaken the grip of limitation on your life and on those connected to you. Your children will not have to fight the same battles you fought because you had the courage to confront them. That is the power of boldness. It breaks chains that have held families captive for generations. What you do in your lifetime becomes the foundation for someone else's starting point. Think about that for a moment. If you choose mediocrity, you normalize it for those who look up to you. If you choose excellence, you make it the standard. The next generation will either start from where you stopped or repeat what you tolerated. Your boldness determines whether they inherit a ceiling or a platform. This is why your choices matter so much. They are not isolated moments, they are building blocks for a legacy. Boldness also influences culture. When one person dares to step out and do something different, they challenge the norms that keep people stuck. They prove that it is possible to rise above circumstances. They show that limitations are often illusions. History is full of examples of men and women who made bold decisions that changed the course of nations. But you do not have to be famous to have that kind of impact. Boldness in your home, in your workplace, in your community, can set off a chain reaction that transforms lives. The enemy of boldness is comfort. Comfort convinces you to settle. It tells you that what you have is good enough, that you do not need to risk failure, that you should avoid standing out. But nothing significant is ever birthed in comfort zones. Every great achievement was born out of discomfort and risk. If you want to influence generations, you must be willing to do what others are afraid to do. You must take the road less traveled. You must say yes when everyone else says no. Your boldness will be remembered long after your name is forgotten. People may not remember every detail of your life, but they will remember the impact of your courage. They will remember that you dared to believe when the odds were against you. They will remember that you refused to settle for less. And because of your boldness, they will have the confidence to pursue more for themselves. So do not underestimate the power of your decisions. Every act of courage creates a new possibility for someone else. When you choose boldness, you are not just living for today. You are planting seeds for tomorrow. You are creating a legacy of faith, strength, and resilience. And long after you are gone, those seeds will continue to grow. That is the power of boldness. It influences generations, it changes stories, it makes history. Everything we have discussed points to one undeniable truth. Your life is shaped by your choices, and one courageous decision can change everything. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a steward of destiny. When you recognize the power of a single decision, when you act in faith rather than fear, when you break the predictable patterns that have held you back, and when you choose boldness for the sake of those who will come after you, you step into a level of influence you may not even comprehend. Right now, the move you make today does not just affect you. It reverberates through time. It touches your family, your community, and generations you may never meet. That is why heaven responds to faithful action. Heaven honors obedience. Heaven celebrates boldness. Because when you align your life with purpose, you become a living testimony of what is possible when someone refuses to settle for less than what they were created for. Do not underestimate the significance of this moment. You may think you are making a small change, but there is nothing small about obedience. There is nothing insignificant about faith. Every step you take in the right direction shifts the atmosphere. It sets off a chain reaction that cannot be stopped. Your life is not random. Every act of courage is recorded in eternity, and every bold move positions you for divine favor and alignment. So today, choose to act. Choose to believe. Choose to break the cycles that have kept you bound. Choose to live boldly, knowing that your decisions are shaping history. The move that heaven is waiting on is not complicated. It is simply your yes. Your yes to faith, your yes to obedience, your yes to becoming who you were created to be. Woman, hear this. The one move you make now will not only surprise heaven, it will change everything. Your future, your legacy, and your story will be rewritten because you dared to believe and act. This is your moment. Take it.